Have you ever sat in quiet moments and wondered, is this just how things are now? The slower steps, the faded warmth, the quiet distance that has crept in where intimacy used to live. If that feels familiar, I want you to know something right away. It doesn't have to stay that way. I'm Dr. Michael Reed, and after 3 decades of walking beside men and women in their 60s, 70s, even 80s, I've seen firsthand that the spark, yes, that one, is not gone. It's just waiting for the right kind of nourishment to return. And sometimes that nourishment doesn't come from a pharmacy. It comes from something far more familiar, something sitting quietly in your kitchen. In this video, we'll explore 4 simple fruits that hold surprising power. Not just for your body, but for your connection, your confidence, your sense of being fully alive again. These aren't quick fixes, they're gentle allies. So take a breath, settle in, and if you're ready to feel more connected, more energized, and more like yourself again, keep watching. What comes next might just be the beginning of something beautiful. Red grapes, the flow restorer. I used to believe, like many doctors of my generation, that only medications could truly bring circulation back to life as we aged. Pills were the answer, or so we thought. But something shifted in me the more I listened. I began paying closer attention to the quiet wisdom of my older patients. Not just what they complained about, but what they shared in passing. Little rituals, daily habits, stories of change. And again, one thing kept showing up in their lives. Red grapes, not some trendy powder or miracle cure from overseas. Just red grapes, small, familiar, and easy to overlook. But inside these little fruits lies something extraordinary. A natural compound called resveratrol that works in the deepest parts of your body. It gently encourages blood vessels to open, to breathe, to flow freely again. This matters more than most people realize. Because when circulation slows, it's not just our energy that fades, it's warmth, it's clarity, and yes, it's intimacy too. Resveratrol helps reverse that quiet shutting down. It boosts nitric oxide production, which the body needs to expand blood vessels and bring oxygen where it's needed most. And where aging often shows its first signs isn't in the heart or brain, but in the legs, the feet, and during private moments that once brought joy, but now bring hesitation. That's where red grapes shine. They don't force anything. They don't shock the system. They remind it of how to function the way it used to. For older men, the change can feel deeply personal. I've seen men in their 70s and 80s quietly regain the strength and response they thought belonged only to their younger years. Not from chemicals or prescriptions, but from consistency. A bowl of grapes a day, a choice to nourish, not just treat. That same gentle power also reaches women whose needs are too often overlooked. Red grapes help restore blood flow to the pelvic area, where dryness, coolness, or emotional disconnection can quietly build over time. More circulation there means more sensation, more comfort, and a deeper feeling of closeness, not just physically, but emotionally too. This is not about turning back the clock. It's about reclaiming what still belongs to you, that quiet spark of aliveness, that sense that your body is still capable of pleasure, of connection, of warmth. One older couple, James and Eliza, shared something with me I'll never forget. They'd been married nearly 5 decades. After a few months of adding red grapes to their morning routine, Eliza said, "We don't feel young again, but we feel us again." There was something in her eyes when she said that. Not surprise, recognition. And that's the real gift of red grapes. Not magic, not miracle. Just a gentle reminder each day that you still deserve to feel good, that your body can still respond to care, and that something as simple as a piece of fruit can restore more than health. It can restore hope. You don't need to change everything at once. Just begin. A small bowl of red grapes with breakfast or as a midday snack. Let it become a quiet part of your rhythm, not because you have to, but because you can, because you're still here, still deserving, and still capable of more than you know. And this is only the beginning. The next fruit on this list doesn't just improve blood flow. It quietly protects your kidneys and your heart, and has a secret power when it comes to restoring intimacy in ways most people have never even heard about. If you've come this far, keep going. The journey's only just beginning. 2. Cranberries, the kidney guardian. There was a time I barely gave cranberries a second thought. To me, they were just that sour little side dish at holiday dinners. Something you spoon onto a plate, but rarely seek out on your own. But as the years passed and I spent more time with older patients who still radiated vitality and emotional closeness in their relationships, I noticed something surprising. Again and again, they mentioned cranberries. Not as medicine, not as some grand solution, just a quiet daily habit that somehow made a difference. And when I finally looked into the science, I understood why. Cranberries are not just for decoration. They are fierce protectors of two systems that most of us don't talk about enough as we age: the kidneys and the urinary tract. These areas may not grab attention like the heart or the brain, but they quietly hold the key to how we feel day to day. Because when the kidneys begin to slow down, even slightly, toxins start to build, energy drops, and inflammation begins to touch the most private parts of our lives. For many seniors, that shows up as fatigue, discomfort, or a steady loss of interest in intimacy. Not because the desire is gone, but because the body no longer supports it the way it once did. That's where cranberries begin to shine. Packed with powerful antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds, they help the kidneys stay clear and strong. They flush away bacteria, reduce inflammation along the urinary tract, and help maintain healthy blood vessels, especially those that support the pelvic region. And while that might sound purely medical, the impact is deeply personal, because when blood can flow freely, everything starts to feel more alive. For men, this often means improved stamina and firmer erections, not from a pill or a procedure, but from the body doing what it was always meant to do, now with the support it needs. Healthy kidneys regulate blood pressure and support nitric oxide levels, both of which are critical for performance and confidence in intimate moments. For women, the changes may be quieter, but no less meaningful. Less irritation, more ease, and most importantly, a return to comfort and trust with their own body. That comfort can make all the difference when it comes to closeness with a partner. I remember one couple, Richard and Evelyn, who had been together for more than 30 years. They came to see me after Evelyn had gone through a stretch of recurrent infections and discomfort that left them both feeling distant and discouraged. We made a few simple changes, one of which was incorporating unsweetened cranberry juice into her morning routine. Months later, Richard told me with quiet gratitude that it wasn't just the physical changes they noticed. It was how they began to laugh again, to reach for each other again, to feel like partners again. Cranberries didn't solve everything, but they opened the door. That's the beauty of this fruit. It works in the background, gently, daily, creating the conditions for warmth, for trust, for connection to return without pain or pressure getting in the way. And that's what makes life after 60 so full of possibility. When you feel safe in your body, it becomes easier to open your heart. So start small. Add a handful of dried cranberries to your salad. Sip a little tart cranberry juice in the morning. Choose the kind without added sugar and let your body tell you how it feels. These are not dramatic steps, but they are powerful ones. Because what cranberries offer isn't just physical relief. It's the quiet return of confidence, of ease, of closeness. And while cranberries protect and soothe, what comes next in our journey does something else entirely. There is a fruit that doesn't just heal from the inside, but awakens something that may have been sleeping. It helps restore energy, increase testosterone, and remind your body of the fire it still holds. Ready to discover it? Let's continue. 3. Papaya, the energy awakener. There's something about papaya that feels like sunlight after a long winter. Maybe it's the warm golden flesh or the gentle sweetness that lingers on your tongue, or maybe it's what it brings back to life inside you. For many people over 60, papaya is just a tropical fruit they pass by in the grocery store. But hidden within that soft orange glow is something much deeper. A quiet strength, a natural spark, and for some, the very thing they've been missing. I remember one gentleman, Thomas, a retired school principal with kind eyes and a tired smile. He came into my office not because of pain, but because he was fading. Sleep had become restless. His energy felt drained by noon. His marriage, while still full of love, had grown quiet and distant. He was doing everything right, eating healthy, walking every morning, but the light in him was dimming. We talked for a while, and then together we made a small addition to his day. One ripe papaya each morning, blended with a spoonful of Greek yogurt. A few weeks later, Thomas walked back in, upright, smiling, joking again. He didn't have to explain. You could see it in the way he stood. The change was real. Papaya is rich in vitamins A, C, and E, but its power runs deeper than nutrients. It holds unique enzymes like papain, which support digestion and reduce inflammation, giving the body space to recover and renew. More importantly for older adults, papaya helps restore natural hormone balance. In men, it supports the production of testosterone and improves circulation by relaxing blood vessels and encouraging better oxygen flow. That combination often results in firmer, more dependable erections and a return of that deep physical confidence so many fear they've lost forever. For women, papaya offers something equally beautiful. It helps support estrogen balance, relieves pelvic discomfort, and gently reawakens the body's ability to feel and respond. It softens tension, so intimacy becomes something to look forward to again, not something to avoid. It also nourishes the adrenal glands, those small but powerful centers that help us manage stress. With better adrenal support, energy rises, and emotional connection becomes easier. You stop bracing for fatigue and begin welcoming closeness again. But the magic of papaya is not in how dramatic it is. It's in how simple it feels. There's no prescription, no long list of side effects, no pressure. Just a soft fruit you can cut open in the morning, scoop with a spoon, and let become part of your rhythm. The kind of nourishment that doesn't shout but whispers, "I'm here for you." That's what I hear most often from couples who add papaya to their mornings. Not that it changed everything in a day, but that it helped them feel like themselves again, like partners again. There's something powerful about that quiet kind of healing, when energy returns without force, when connection grows without pressure, when your body starts to remember its own joy. If you've been waiting for something to shift, if you've wondered whether desire, comfort, or energy can return, let papaya be part of your answer. It may not bring back the past, but it can help you step more fully into the present, with warmth, with vitality, with love that doesn't fade but deepens. And if that feels like enough, I understand. But we're not done yet, because the next fruit in this journey is perhaps the most unexpected of all. A fruit that gently nurtures your heart, supports your hormones, calms your mind before bed, and opens the door to even deeper emotional intimacy. Let's talk about cherries. 4. Cherries, the intimacy booster. There is something tender and almost nostalgic about cherries. Maybe it's their deep velvet color or the way you have to slow down as you eat them, one by one, pit by pit. They invite you to pause, to savor. But what's most remarkable is not how they taste, it's what they quietly awaken inside the body, especially after 60. I once worked with a couple, Harold and Clara, both in their late 60s, who had been together since college. They were kind to each other, deeply respectful, still holding hands on walks, but something unspoken was weighing them down. Harold felt disconnected from his own body, describing it as if something had dulled, like a song that no longer played at full volume. Clara missed the closeness they once shared, the spontaneous laughter, the quiet comfort of touch. But she was gentle with her longing. She didn't want Harold to feel inadequate or rushed. They came to me not for a solution, but for a small step. Something natural, something kind. That's when I suggested cherries. At first, they smiled politely. Cherries? It sounded almost too simple. But they agreed to try. A small bowl each evening, fresh or frozen, depending on the season. They didn't change anything else. 2 months later, they returned to my office. But something had changed. They were sitting closer. They finished each other's sentences. And when they laughed, it had that unmistakable spark. I didn't need to ask. I could feel it. Something in them had come back to life. Cherries are rich in anthocyanins, natural compounds that protect and heal blood vessels. They help reduce inflammation and support nitric oxide production, which is essential for circulation and sexual response. When blood flows better, everything else starts to respond more easily. For older men, this can mean firmer, longer-lasting erections. Not with pressure or urgency, but with ease. For women, it often means better pelvic circulation, more comfort, more natural arousal, and an intimacy that feels whole again, not forced. But cherries don't only nourish the body, they speak softly to the mind. They contain natural melatonin, a compound that supports deeper, more restful sleep. And when sleep improves, stress softens. Hormones begin to balance. The emotional fog lifts. You start to feel more open, more ready, more yourself. That's why I love cherries. Not for their boldness, but for their gentleness. They don't demand change. They invite it, slowly, quietly. They support the parts of you that may have been neglected, not out of choice, but from the natural wear of time. They restore not just circulation, but tenderness. They help you come back to each other with less fear and more grace. Some people think intimacy after 60 is about chasing youth. It's not. It's about remembering what closeness really means. The unspoken glance, the familiar touch, the trust that says, I see you and I still want you here. Cherries don't perform miracles. They simply help remove the roadblocks so what's already inside you has space to rise again. So if you're looking for a gentle way to return to that part of yourself or your relationship, try cherries. Not as a cure, not as a quick fix, but as a daily act of care, a bowl after dinner, a habit shared between two people who still believe in connection. They may just remind you of what your body is still capable of, and more importantly, what your heart is still longing to give. Simple steps to start today. Now that you've discovered the quiet power of these 4 remarkable fruits, you might find yourself wondering, how do I begin? How do I take this knowledge and turn it into something real? Something that actually touches my daily life without turning into another rigid routine? That's the beauty of what comes next. Because this journey doesn't ask for perfection, it asks only for presence. Small, steady steps towards something better. And the first step begins today. If you're still reading, it likely means there's a part of you that's ready. Maybe you've been feeling a little slower lately, a little less connected. Maybe there's a quiet longing in you to feel more alive again, not just in your body, but in your spirit. And maybe you've started to question the stories we're told about aging, that it's all decline, all loss. But that's not the full story. Because the truth is, your body hasn't stopped wanting to thrive. It hasn't forgotten how to heal. It just needs a little help remembering. That's why I love this approach. We're not talking about strict diets or expensive pills. We're talking about fruit. Real, vibrant, whole fruit that speaks your body's language, that nourishes not just your cells, but your sense of joy. There's a kind of wisdom in choosing foods that grow from the earth, a simplicity, a return to what feels natural. So how do you start? Begin small. 1 fruit, 1 moment, 1 shift. Maybe it's a handful of red grapes in the afternoon while you sit by the window. Maybe it's dried cranberries tossed into your salad or oatmeal. Maybe it's scooping out a ripe papaya with breakfast or enjoying a bowl of cherries as you unwind in the evening. Don't worry about doing everything at once. This isn't about pressure, it's about presence. It's about giving your body a consistent, loving signal that says, I care, I'm here, I'm choosing life. And when you begin, even gently, you may start to notice the subtlest changes. Maybe your hands and feet feel warmer. Maybe your mind clears just a bit more easily. Maybe your sleep deepens, your mood softens, or a quiet spark begins to stir in places that had gone silent. These aren't miracles. They're messages, gentle reminders from your own body that it's still capable of responding, still open to healing, still deeply connected to the desire to feel good, to love, to be loved. After working with seniors for decades, I can tell you this with all my heart. It is never too late. I have seen men in their 70s rediscover passion they thought was long behind them. I have seen women in their 80s light up with a new kind of confidence simply because they started feeling more at ease in their bodies again. Not by turning back time, but by feeding what they already have. And that's what this is, not a fix, a remembering, a return. So I invite you today to take a new look at your kitchen counter, your grocery list, your fruit bowl. See these 4 fruits not just as snacks or ingredients, but as allies, as daily tools to help you feel stronger, more open, more connected to yourself and the people you care about. Let your morning grapes or evening cherries be more than food. Let them be acts of self-love, quiet choices that say, I still matter, my body still matters, my joy is still worth nurturing. Because these fruits, as simple as they are, hold something powerful. Red grapes, cranberries, papaya, and cherries. They are not magic, but they are deeply wise. They work gently, patiently, reaching places that medication often cannot. They support the flow of blood, the rhythm of hormones, the softening of tension, and the rise of intimacy from within. They touch not just physical function, but emotional connection. And in that way, they become more than nourishment. They become renewal. So if all you do tomorrow is add a spoonful of papaya to your breakfast, or carry a small bunch of grapes with you on your walk, know this: you are making a decision, not just to eat better, but to live with more intention, to honor your body not because it's broken, but because it still has so much life to give. This is not a farewell to your best days, it's a welcome to the next chapter. The truth is, you've spent a lifetime taking care of others. Now it's time to turn that same care inward. You deserve to feel good again. You deserve warmth in your body, peace in your mind, and tenderness in your relationships. And perhaps the most beautiful part of all, that path forward doesn't start with a prescription. It begins with a piece of fruit and the simple, courageous choice to believe in your own aliveness once more. I hope these simple truths have reminded you of something powerful, that it's never too late to feel connected, to feel alive, and to feel love moving through your body again. These 4 fruits are just the beginning, gentle steps toward a life filled with more warmth, more ease, and more joy than you may have thought possible. Now I'd love to hear from you. Share one small insight that touched you today and write it in the comments with the words "still alive." Let's remind each other that age does not dim the spirit, it deepens it. If this message spoke to you, take a moment to subscribe so you don't miss the next lesson. There's more ahead, more wisdom, more healing, more life. Thank you for spending your time here. You deserve to feel good. You deserve closeness that feels natural and real. And you deserve to wake up tomorrow knowing that your best days might just be beginning.